Welcome to the 𝗕𝗥𝗢𝗘𝗥 Basketball Show. I'm your host, 𝗕𝗥𝗢𝗡𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Jack Lynch. We're coming to you from Melbourne, Australia, where it is currently 7:24 a.m. on, what day is it? Friday, the 4th of December, 2020.
Thanks for clarifying.
It's still 2020. You might not believe it. So on today's show, it's a JL. I said to you last pod, we're having a guest on. And
You haven't let me down.
I haven't let you down. And I can't believe I managed to get him on this early, because this man is like the exact middle point, I would say, of our interests. He's none other than Drew Hanlen, the man who trains the likes of Joel Embiid and Jayson Tatum, Bradley Beal, Zach LaVine, just to name a few. He's going to be coming on the show. It's going to be a great conversation, so definitely tune in for that. And we'll also just quickly recap what's happened in the last week. If you're new here, it's a great time. Please don't forget to press subscribe, follow, or whatever that button is on your podcast app, or on YouTube, press subscribe. We're going to put this on YouTube, JL. First one ever.
Mate, this is our big break. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to all the 14-year-old boys commenting, saying, just talking shit, having my first haters. I'm looking forward to it.
And don't forget to check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, the 𝗕𝗥𝗢𝗥𝗏 Basketball. Go check us out everywhere. Follow and subscribe. It's going to be a great show. It's time for tip-off. Once again, welcome to the 𝗕𝗥𝗢𝗥𝗏 Basketball Show. I'm with a guy who looks great at 7:25 in the morning. How are you, JL?
I think that's the first time anyone's ever said that I look good in the morning. Famously not a morning person. But other than that, feeling good, bright and early. Still feel half asleep, but also energized. So I'm looking forward to a good one.
Yeah, it's going to be a great show today. As I mentioned, we're going to be talking to Drew Hanlen, one of the best, if not the best, NBA.
Come on, he's the best.
He is the best skill trainers in the NBA. So, but before we get to Drew, let's talk about. I'm frozen. Let's talk about Wall. I actually wrote on the document for all our viewers and listeners, Wall. For Beal, because it's been a long 24 hours prepping for this episode. But Wall for Russ, it happened. Woj reported that after there was rumors and ideas about this trade, that it sort of talks went dead for a couple of weeks, and then in a couple of hours yesterday, the GMs got it done. What do you think of this trade, Westbrook for John Wall?
I don't really know yet what's going to happen and if there's like a winner of this trade. But my initial thoughts are how good are trades where it seems that both teams get weirder. Like, not necessarily weaker, but I just feel like it doesn't make sense for either team at the moment. So I don't know. I really don't know what to say about it, because I just don't think it benefits either team.
The rumors started up, of course, the reports that James Harden preferred to have John Wall moving into next season over Russell Westbrook. And it's actually amazing. I mean, and this is not a thing we're going to start talking about Harden, but I'm sure in history books it'll go down that Harden had CP3, Westbrook, and then John Wall within 3 consecutive seasons. Talk about ungrateful with his point guards.
I saw a good tweet, and it was like, when you're the common denominator in all your breakups and refuse to realize it. I was like, yeah, sounds about right. What's happening?
The Rockets also received a protected first round pick that will be for 2023. Am I keeping you up, mate?
You are.
I
told you I'm not a morning person.
I'm sorry that I woke you up this early. The good thing is, for all our viewers and listeners, that I didn't sleep. That's why I've got the upper hand here. Everything's a bit like fuzzy in my vision, but no yawning. Anyway, moving on. So, yeah, they got a 2023 protected first round pick, the Rockets. I still can't tell if the Rockets are looking to rebuild or if they're looking to move with Harden and Wall.
They're in no man's land at the moment, I think.
Who
and
knows?
I mean, it does, if we get prime John Wall back, which I think most people, highly doubt that'll be the case. But if we do, then, then there's a chance that something's going down and Houston are going to be playing good basketball. But even then, I know Russ had a bad playoffs, but his regular season before he got injured was fantastic.
Yeah, I don't like Westbrook.
I know, for example, from the 16th of December last year to the 11th of February, so it's almost 2 months. He's played 22 games, averaged, where we're looking here, 32 points per game, 8 rebounds and 7 assists with 1.5 steals. That's elite basketball. And I kept saying last podcast that he was playing some of the best basketball of his career before that point.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a weird time to trade him now when his stock's at an all-time low. He's had an awful playoffs, but he had coronavirus, and obviously players are going to react to that differently and have, different side effects. But it looks like that obviously slowed him down, plus the quad and knee injury. So I don't know. I just feel like you were better off running it back or at least going half a season than trying to make a trade when people realize Westbrook can play.
Yeah, I will admit he was having a really good stretch there when they got rid of Capella and they made essentially Russ the guy that would attack the paint and then he settled with his mid-range because he shouldn't be shooting threes in anyone's opinion. So I will level with you on that, and it's going to be interesting to see what the Wizards and the Rockets do. But yeah, very much no man's land for the Rockets, and I'm not too excited for the Wizards. All right. Moving on. LeBron James was this a surprise? I think this is a bit of a surprise.
This was a surprise. It came from nowhere.
Yeah.
You're going to run us through what actually happened, or are you just going to ask me it's a surprise?
I've just written LeBron extension. And so to rattle it off the top of my head, it was an extension of 2 years, $85 million. So he signed a contract before the 2018-2019 season for 3 years plus a player option. And now he's extended for 2 years beyond the 3, voiding the player option, which will take him through to the end of the 2022-2023 season.
Yeah.
So he's with them for another 3 years. And then let's just go straight to it because this is definitely cohesive. Anthony Davis finally has signed his contract with the Lakers, $190 million for 5 years with, I think, basically a player option for the 5th year. So AD and the Lakers have convinced AD for at least 1 year to still be the guy after this LeBron extension.
Yeah. Well, I think, firstly, I love that LeBron's committed to the Lakers because other than signing his rookie extension in Cleveland, he never signed an extension with them. It was always another contract to wait till his contract year and then decide to opt out or opt in sort of thing. So he's genuinely shown more faith in this franchise than he has his whole career so far. But then the other thing I love is that LeBron James Jr., Bronny, is probably the most famous 16-year-old in the basketball world at the moment. And by all accounts, he's good, but not great at this stage. And, he's ranked like 16th in his class or something like that. So all the rumors are coming out now and it has been for about 6 to 12 months that the NBA is going to remove the 1 year of college, the mandatory year of college. So if that's the case and Bronny can go through high school, LeBron's contract ends when Bronny will be drafted.
Yeah.
And I wonder if LeBron did that and that was part of the plan. I wonder if it's somewhere it's like, I want the option, whether I take it or not, to play with Bronny. When he gets drafted to a franchise, if they're in good position, maybe I'll sign there.
Yeah, it's It's one of those Hollywood sort of prospects. I don't look into it too much, but it would be fun to see it happen, I guess. I just feel like, I don't know, unless there was some miraculous story, I just feel like I couldn't see them ending up on the same team, unless like LeBron has won the Lakers like 4 championships by then, and then he gets AD traded for whatever pick Bronny's going to be.
But imagine imagine the tanking race if it was you get the number 1 pick and LeBron James this year. If LeBron said he's going to sign with whoever takes him up in the draft, it'd be the most like exciting 12th to 15th in the East and West that there's ever been.
Yeah, I think LeBron definitely going to pass. Is it Kareem up the top with all-time points?
Definitely. The last time I checked it, it was something like if he averages, and that whoever does these have always got too much time in their hands because they break it down by like points per game per age, whatnot. And it'll be like another 3 seasons or something like that, and he should get it. So unless there's a major injury,
yeah,
I think that's LeBron's goal as well. I think he really wants that.
Yeah. So moving on, before we get to the Ball brothers, just a quick rant from me. So Woj reported the tentative and then the confirmed Christmas Day schedule. And as many know, Christmas Day is the biggest day in the NBA. And you should have the biggest matchups or just the most viewers. That's what they try to do with this day.
Maybe they do, mate.
So you have your mainstays like the Lakers and the Celtics, and of recent times the Warriors and the Bucks, I guess. But this is the matchups for the day: Pelicans, Heat, Warriors, Bucks, Nets, Celtics, Mavs, Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets. Is there a team that is missing from that schedule, JL?
I think they've nailed it. And you'll never hear me say otherwise.
The Philadelphia 76ers fan base will get you. I would love to see the New Orleans Pelicans, Zion included. I would love to see how many viewers they're going to get for that game against the Heat compared to how much, in a hypothetical world or even just past numbers, the 76ers would have got. What a joke. And the Warriors, you said, we messaged the Warriors without Clay against the Bucks. Come on.
I never said that, mate. No, I was surprised the Warriors, but I did say the tentative schedule. So maybe there is some room for a bit of flexibility there and they'll change it up.
No way.
I mean, they don't have much time, but they might do it.
Yeah. And
it hasn't officially, the schedule hasn't come out yet.
Yeah. But also the 2 first days before Christmas, because the NBA starts just before Christmas, there's 4 national TV games. Warriors, Nets, Clippers, Lakers, that's opening night. And then the day after is Bucks, Celtics, Mavs, Suns. In those first 3 days, there is no Philadelphia 76ers. I want Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons to take this personally, to quote MJ. This is appalling. Like, our viewership would be killing it compared to the Pelicans. That's the one that kills me the most. So that's my little rant. I'm
glad you got that out. Yeah. Because I don't want to hear it again.
And just before we get on to Drew Hanlen now, LiAngelo Ball completes the hat trick of Ball brothers entering the NBA. He was playing for the Oklahoma City Blues, my good old friend Max, who loves the Ball brothers. Shout out to Max. He was playing for Oklahoma City Blues or some crap in the G League and working on his stuff. But now the Detroit Pistons have signed him to a 1-year non-guaranteed Exhibit 10 contract.
So he's not playing in the NBA.
Is an Exhibit 10 the same thing as a 10-day?
No, an Exhibit 10 means you can go to training camp. And that's literally it.
Oh, okay. Right.
So here we go. An Exhibit 10 contract is a 1-year deal that guarantees that the said player will receive a training camp invitation. Exhibit 10 players get bonuses of up to $50,000 to sign with the team's G League affiliate if waived. So he'll be waived and will sign with whoever the Detroit's G League team is, and that'll be that.
And in terms of non-guaranteed, the definition is that like money's not guaranteed. Is that correct?
The money's guaranteed. It's just that they don't have to keep him.
Okay.
I think.
I thought the non-guaranteed was about the money when you say non-guaranteed. Because he's non-guaranteed Exhibit 10. And like Dwight Howard, for example, just came out and said, I want to keep playing, but I don't want to play for free because he was on a non-guaranteed for a long time there with the Lakers.
Well, I think with Dwight, it was getting paid like per match pretty much. And I think that's how it was like, as your time, you get paid for your time.
Yeah.
Whereas the non-guaranteed Exhibit 10, I was under the impression that this means like you're not guaranteed to be kept on after that. But who knows?
Anyway, LiAngelo Ball is doing stuff with NBA titles. Well, let's get on to Drew Hanlen, JL.
I'm so excited for this.
I'm so excited. So we'll bring him up now. All right, we'll be with you and Drew in a minute. So our very special guest of today probably doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. He shot 40% from three in college, playing for Belmont, made a couple of NCAA tournament appearances. He is the CEO and founder of Pure Sweat Basketball. He has clients by the name of Joel Embiid, Jayson Tatum, Zach LaVine, and Bradley Beal, just to name a few. Drew Hanlen, how are you?
I'm doing well. I like how you started out, you being a Sixers fan with Joel's name first, him being a Boston Celtics fan, Jayson right afterwards. I did notice that in the intro, but no, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to join you guys.
I know that was 100% intentional as well. But we spoke off air about the time difference, obviously trying to set up this interview. And if I've done my research correctly, you were here in Australia this time last year. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, it was part of my Unseen Hours World Tour. So I spent 10 days over there. We did, I think, 6 total clinics for both players and coaches in Australia, primarily in Sydney and Melbourne. Then also got to take a little trip to Airlie Beach to see, some of the beautiful beaches around there and some of the islands over there. And then we dove the Great Barrier Reef. So it was definitely one of the coolest places I've ever been. I've been all over the world through the game of basketball, but Australia was definitely up there, and it's a place that once COVID dies down, that I'll definitely be back to visit.
So let's get into your journey to the best trainer in the NBA today. So you started out putting up 1,000 shots before school at high school. Take us away from there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my work ethic has always been a thing that's helped me, get results as a basketball player and a basketball trainer. I tell people that the work ethic started when I was really, really young. If I wanted something, instead of my parents just giving it to me, they made sure that I worked for it. Whether that was me doing a lemonade stand on a street corner, or going door to door cutting grass, or shoveling snow, depending on the time of year, maybe even raking leaves. I mean, really, I was willing to hustle any dollar I could out of my neighbors, just so that I could obtain whatever, candy or meal or shoes that I wanted at that time. And, then I started, falling in love with the game of basketball. I was one of those, kids that loved every sport. I was actually better at soccer than I was basketball, but just gravitated towards basketball because I loved it so much. And, I found myself in the driveway constantly practicing moves that I had seen the night before. I still have VHS recordings. I know that maybe some kids listening to this don't even know what VHS tapes are, but I have VHS recordings of Michael Jordan games, and I would VHS record it, I'd rewatch it, and whatever moves he did that night, the next day I was in the driveway working on them. And when I got to 12 years old, I really got serious about the game of basketball. I gave up sweets. I didn't have any candy, ice cream, soda, anything until I was done playing college basketball at 22 years old, 10 years without sweets. And then I also started shooting in the morning, which became kind of a famous routine around town. And it started with me doing, a couple hundred shots every morning. And then it turned into, in high school, I shot 1,000 shots every morning. Now, what does that have to do with anything? It has to do with everything, because me working really hard was the reason why I started my basketball training journey. I was at a 3-court facility, and a parent saw me working really hard on one of the courts by myself and came over and said, "Hey, listen, my son does not know what real hard work is. I would love to have him go through that exact same workout that you just went through." He's like, "I'll give you $20. And I already told you guys I'm a hustler, and so when somebody told me that I got to do 2 things I love helping people, and I love the game of basketball, and they were going to tell me that they were going to give me $20 to do 2 things that I love at the same time, it was a no-brainer. And so that started my training career. I started working with a lot of other players in St. Louis area, one of them being a 13-year-old Brad Beal. And Brad went from 8 points a game as a freshman in high school to 24 points a game as a sophomore in high school. He had a 52-point outing, I think, his second game of his sophomore season in high school. And everyone was like, "What did you do this summer?" And so I tell people all the time, Brad was already a hard worker. Brad had already, learned how to shoot from his mom at an early age. So he had some fundamentals. He was lifting weights with his brother. He grew a couple inches, but, I helped accelerate his growth, and the rest was history. In basketball training, it's all about word of mouth. And so if you help get one guy results, the next guy wants results. And, then sure enough, you have a clientele base like I do now.
And I believe, is it actually true that part of your work ethic and what you do for the guys, that you've watched every made basket of the NBA of the last 8 or so years?
So some people, I gave that stat. So there was an 8-year period of time where I watched every single made field goal that occurred in the NBA. I was doing film for sometimes up to 10 hours a day, but really, if you average it out, I wasn't doing it during the off season. I was only doing it during the in season. So it was, 4 to 8 hours a day that I was watching film. But for eight seasons, I watched every single made field goal. I organized them into over 1,400 or 500 categories. And I have an unmatched database of film. It's funny because I'm actually getting ready to release it to the public for the first time. I had a bunch of haters that misconstrued what I said. Originally, they thought that I said I watched every made field goal in the NBA history. I'm like, guys, I've never even seen like the guys back in the day play. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've only seen highlights of like the guys like Wilt Chamberlain and stuff like that. I was like, how can you think that I said that? But it made me realize that a lot of people were so interested in getting access to that film. So I'm actually going to release it in my skills school soon. But yeah, I mean, that's what I needed to do because I was so young when I started training NBA players. I was 19 years old. I needed to find a way to make up for experience. And I couldn't just make up for it by, getting in the gym for long hours. I had to actually study the game. And the NBA game is so different than high school or college, not just terminology, but just how they play. Spacing's different because of the rules. I mean, I teach a lot of moves that would be travels, or push-offs or whatever you would call it in the NBA because if the refs allow it, we're going to teach it. So it's just a different game. And so I really had to study the game so that I could try to shrink the gap between what I needed to know to help my clients get to the highest level and what I currently knew at that time. And, I'm still on the journey of trying to learn as much as I can and acquire as much knowledge as I can so that I can be more efficient with the workouts, more strategic with the workouts, and ultimately get them better results in a faster period of time.
One of the guys that I know he's from St. Louis as well. You spent some time just recently in this offseason with him, Jayson Tatum. In 2018, you and Jayson, you got a chance to do a session with Kobe Bryant. And I don't know if there was another one other than that. That's just all that my research got me to. But as an extremely driven worker as yourself, what was it like to train with one of the hardest workers to ever step on the court in Kobe?
Yeah, it was awesome just to spend time with him and, pick his brain. That was the biggest thing is Jayson and I had studied his game. Jayson and I started working together when Jayson was 13 as well. He's, a St. Louis kid. So we would go up every morning before school and get workouts in. And when he was 13 years old, the first week that I ever worked out Jayson, what we did was we watched Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Tracy McGrady, even a little bit of Carmelo Anthony. We watched their jabs, and we watched over and over, jab, jab, jab. And there was different variations of jabs. And we spent the whole week on his jab step. No jump shots, 13 years old. That was a discipline that Jayson had. He wanted to be great. But to be able to be in the gym and just ask Kobe, like, hey, listen, like on your fadeaway, what were your big keys? On your load steps, what were your big keys? On your ball pickups, what were your big keys? When you saw doubles coming from the nail, what did you do? How did you manipulate your teammates so that it was a longer pull for the defender so that you had more room and more time to operate? But being able to get in the lab with him, pick his brain, and also just, you don't really hear about the weaknesses that the guys have. You hear Mamba mentality. You hear Michael Jordan with like the it factor, and this and that. But being able to be around some of the great players, I always ask about their vulnerability and how they went from being a guy that at one time in their career didn't have that belief that they did. And then how did they get, over that kind of hurdle and then become the mental kind of, gurus that they became in their primes of their careers. And so being able to pick his brain firsthand and be on the court was awesome. And I know Jayson and I obviously appreciate our time with him, and wish we could be in the gym with him a lot more, unfortunately, with the tragedy that happened.
Yeah. And I suppose as well, like Kobe workout stories are part of basketball legend now. We've heard his 6-6-6 program, which was 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, 6 months a year in the off season. And then there's the stories of his training in the Olympics where he'd get up 800 shots at 4 a.m. in the morning before practice at 11. Do you see that mentality within any of your clients now, or is there someone that definitely stands out who's the most driven?
Now, here's one thing I'll say. So me and my clients talk about this all the time, and I'll make sure I preface this with, I'm not discrediting Kobe or anybody else, but you hear stories where, like last year, a big story in the NBA was Jimmy Butler went to the gym at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. And what a lot of my other clients said were like, yo, listen, it doesn't matter if you work out at 4 a.m. or 8 a.m. or noon or 2 p.m. As long as you're working out, you're working out. And so I think that, similar to me, I shot 1,000 shots in the morning before school. If I would have shot 900, it wouldn't have been as cool. But because I got to that 1,000 mark, most people were maybe shooting triple digits, where I was getting to that 4th digit, it became a story, a headline. I used to wake up at 4:59 a.m. because I wanted to be 1 minute before everyone that woke up at 5 a.m. and thought they were waking up early. But just think, in high school, everyone's like, this guy's got a different mentality because he wakes up 1 minute early. Really, it becomes the story around the workout, when the truth is there's a lot of guys working on their game for almost 6 hours a day during the off season. I mean, when you include everything, which he was, you're talking about basketball. Say you spend, 2 hours on the basketball court. Say you spend an hour doing treatment and rehab. That's 3 hours right there. You spend an hour lifting. Maybe you come back and get another hour of shots. I mean, most guys are at 4.5, 5 hours on a regular kind of day in the off season. So I just think that it was really cool that he did things to give himself a mental edge. You know what I mean? There's been times where I've talked to some of these legends and I've been like, yo, you got to tell me about this story that I heard. And they're like, Drew, that was so overblown, like overgassed. Like, what I did was I just did it so that mentally I could have something that held me accountable for going 6 hours a day. Or I just woke up early because, then I had the rest of the day to spend with my family, but then it became a big story that I was, grinding early in the morning or whatever it was. And I'm not saying that about the Kobe stuff. I'm just saying in general, I think that fans latch on to these storylines that sound like, oh my God, this is over the top, where the truth is, there's a lot of guys that I work with that work really, really hard. I think the difference that Kobe had was Kobe was able to transition that mentality into games. And that's what made him really special, is him and Jordan had such a killer factor where I have heard true stories where their teammates have been like, after the third quarter, they're walking to the bench and, them sit down on the bench and be like, whew, all right, guys, hope you had fun in the first 3 quarters. Hop on my back. I'm carrying us to the finish line. I'm not passing this quarter. And that's the stuff that the mentality stuff that I'm like, that's just different. You know what I mean? And so that's why it's so cool. I've been fortunate to be around a lot of the best basketball players that have ever played the game. And, it was great to spend time with Kobe because he's one of them.
So you've been a skills coach at all different levels, obviously high school, then college, and even still draft prospects, and of course the NBA. What would you say is the biggest challenge you face when working with an NBA player?
Earning their trust. I think without trust, you can't get real development. You can't get real results. There's a lot of workout coaches that just put players through workouts, get them a good sweat, get them in shape, get them up reps. I'm not one of those guys. I want to develop. I want to be a part of their journey. I want to help them improve at a higher rate than they would if they never met me. And so that takes trust. And I always tell people that, their game is the second most important thing in their life. The things that they love, the people they love, if they're religious, then, whatever they believe in, that's number one. The things that they love is number one. But after faith and family, basketball is most of their identity. And so if I'm going to be trusted with their second most important thing in their life, the game of basketball, I have to make sure that, they believe in me, that we're on the same page, and that they know that what we do is going to work. Because if they second guess it, there's going to be hiccups, there's going to be roadblocks, and development means breaking down and then building up. And you have to trust somebody to be vulnerable enough to break down. And I think that that's the hardest part, but it's also something that I've spent a lot of time researching, a lot of time in the trenches, a lot of 3 a.m., 4 a.m., me trying to stay awake while they're playing video games just so that we get those deep conversations, when they finish up. But that's what it takes. If you want to get results, you have to be able to put in the work, not just on the court, studying the game off the court, studying the analytics, studying the film, studying the mind, and then understanding how to get to your players' hearts, how to get to your players' heads so that you can help them on and off the court, which is so important.
Without naming names, obviously, just for obviously privacy reasons, can you sort of elaborate on any one of those experiences, going deep into the hours of the morning, because I know, as you said, and as I did a bit of research, that you really value their emotional state, and you want to help out with any form of depression. Is there any sort of stories, without naming names, that you can think?
I can actually name a name because he's proud of where he's at now, and that's Meyers Leonard. Meyers Leonard came to me a couple years ago. This is our fourth summer right now, and he had a bad year for the Portland Trailblazers. Basically got removed from the lineup, had shot like 34% from three, and really had lost all of his confidence. And so when he came to me, I said, Meyers, listen, this is not going to be an easy process. I'm telling you, if we do our best job this offseason, you're still not going to play much next year. And he was like, come on, bro. You told me like that you could help me out. I said, I can, but it's going to take some time. And he was like, come on, man, you're the best. Like, that's why I'm coming to you. Like, there's no way we can expedite the process. And I was like, no. I was like, we've got a lot of things to work on. I said, in year one, we've got to really work hard so that when you go in practice, you can prove to your coaches and your teammates who have lost faith in you that you're a changed player. Now, if you do that all season long, you might get sprinkle minutes here and there. But in summer two, we can really work on developing your game. And then after summer two, then your coaches will at least give you an opportunity to earn a little bit more of a playing role. And he's like, that doesn't sound good. We're talking about 2 years from now. And I was like, but in year three, then you're going to have a chance to really make a difference. And so there were two parts of his development. It was his mind and his game. And so the first thing that I did was we worked on his shot, and I tried to show him that he could trust me with the shot. The last 3 seasons, the only 3 seasons I've worked with him, he shot over 40% from three all 3 years. So obviously that was a big win on my part, meaning he trusted me where he was like, wow, the stuff we're doing is paying off. In year one, exactly what I said happened. Coaches didn't really give him a chance, but players started to see a little bit different, version of himself. Year two, he came back. He played really, really well that year. That was the year that he had those 2 games against Golden State that he blew up in the playoffs. He had a 30-point game. He had a 17-point game. Everyone was like, whoa, that's how he finished the season. And then last year, he started every game for the Miami Heat until he got hurt. And it's just because he's in such a different mental state. And he cleaned up, everything that he was doing on the basketball court, and more importantly, everything that was holding him back in his mind. And, he's one of my favorite guys to work with because he's such a genuine guy. He's such a hard worker. He's such a good dude. He cares about everyone around him. But Myers, he's not like a lot of the other guys that I've helped out. He's proud that, he came from the gutter and got to where he's at. And he's also helped a lot of other players that are going through it and aren't as outspoken about where they are, go through the depression journey or go through the, kind of slump journey that he went through.
That's an inspiring story to hear about Myers. And just talking on the lines of challenges and also relationships with players, it wasn't hard for anyone to see. I know this might have been overblown as well, but it wasn't hard for anyone to see that the Bulls and Zach LaVine were a bit disgruntled with the coaching staff last season. How do you approach your relationship with your clients when they're enduring a whole season with frustrations such as those?
Well, I'll tell you, the first thing is I try to get on the same page with the coaching staff, the front office, everybody, so that we're all working together. I think that one thing that doesn't happen enough at the youth level is trainers and coaches don't get along, and it's hard for the player to understand what their role is, what they should be doing, and it causes players overthinking in games, which is never good. So the first thing that I always try to do is I try to reach out to the coaching staff. I try to reach out to the front office. And then obviously I talk it over with the players so that we're all trying to push them in the same direction. Now, when that doesn't happen, then what we do is we try to make the best out of the situation. And, if you look at Zach's season last year, averaged 26 points a game. He shot close to 40% from three. He should have been an all-star, to be honest with you. His team just didn't win enough games. There's some voters that only put, playoff team players in the all-star game, but he was one of the best 12 players in the Eastern Conference last year. Zach just kept his head down and just kept working. That's all he's ever done. He's been a hard worker ever since before I met him. And, that's what he kept doing. He didn't let the frustration eat him up. There was a little period of time during the year where he went through a little bit of a slump, but he got himself right back out of it, kept working. And, that's why he had the efficient, breakout offensive year that he did last year.
That game against Charlotte, I think it was Charlotte.
What a game.
He hit like 13 threes or something like that, hit the game winner. But you can definitely see like his progression as he came into the league from when he was in Minnesota to now. It's night and day of how much he's improved.
He's a worker, and one of the things that happened was everybody kept saying, oh, he's a dunker. And he was like, no, like I'm a hooper. You know what I mean? Like he really loves basketball. He really loves working, and he's really, really good at basketball. And so I'm glad that he's been able to prove it. And I think that, he's going to continue to develop and grow and mature. And I think he's going to be one of those guys that people look back and go, whoa, where did this come from when it's all said and done?
Do you ever find, on the contrary, there's players that come into the league and maybe excel straight away, and it's a matter of trying to bring their ego back down to keep work or making sure they work hard?
For sure. I think that there's a lot of players in the NBA that, because they were so confident, it almost got them to the NBA, but because they're too confident, it almost gets them out of the NBA. If you think about, and I don't want to name drop, I don't like putting, players down because they're still some of the best players in the world if they're in the NBA. But there's players that have been college, like All-Americans, that when they came in the NBA, they didn't accept the roles that their teams needed them, and then they fizzled out of the NBA. There's been, guys that were dominant post players in college that needed to become, kind of spot up, pick and roll, pick and pop kind of guys that said, you know what, no, I need the ball in the block and I need isolation touches. And it just doesn't happen. You know what I mean? It was funny. I was talking to one of the players in this year's draft that was a lottery pick, and they were working on some isolation moves in their pre-draft process. And I said, hey, let me ask you a question. What team is going to give you isolations next year? And he was like, what do you mean, man? He's like, I'm going to add to my bag. And I said, listen, I'm just telling you, the first thing you need to do is work on the role that teams are going to need from you. Because if you go to, let's just name some teams off. If you go to Boston, do you think they're going to give you the ball, or they're going to give Jason or Jalen or Kemba, et cetera, the ball? Okay, probably not. If you go to Philly, do you think they're going to give Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons or Tobias Harris or you the ball? If you go to, almost any team, they have 3 or 4 guys that they would rather give the ball if they're going to isolate. And so when players don't understand that, if they let their egos get in the way of kind of understanding how they can add value to winning, that's when it really ends up hurting them. And now, trust me, there are some players that have, almost, believed in themselves to the point where they have become great players too. You look at some players where they come in the league and people are like, oh man, this guy, he's going to be this type of player. And then they end up taking a big jump and you're like, wow. And you hear stories from them. They're like, I always knew this was going to happen. Other people just didn't believe in me. But I would say the most important thing for players that are young is to understand that they need to master the role that they're currently in while working towards the role that they want, not master the role that you want and then try to force your way into that role. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's another player that I'm really intrigued about. And that's Taco Fall. I know you've worked with him. And I suppose his story is quite an interesting one because he became, I suppose, internet famous in the basketball world just because of his high school highlights where he's just extraordinarily tall but didn't really have the skill to go with it. But he's worked his way to college and then he's worked his way to an NBA roster with the Celtics. And then he's even managed to get, an extension on that rookie deal. And he's playing for his second year with the Boston Celtics coming up. But what's it like working with someone that started playing the game at a late age? So he's 16, I believe, and didn't pick it up as quickly as other guys that picked it up late, like Embiid or Pascal Siakam, for example.
Taco, I love him, man. Taco is obviously I didn't realize how famous Taco was until I walked into a gym. There was a like a fundraiser camp or like a give back camp that was going on in LA during the pre-draft process. And I walked in with RJ Barrett and Taco Fall. And I was like, all right, RJ just got done playing with Duke. And that was when Duke had, him and Zion and Cam Reddish, and they were on ESPN every night. And we walked in the gym and every kid started yelling, Taco, Taco. And I looked at RJ and I said, this is not what I expected. I thought everybody was going to be all about, Dookie and RJ, but everyone loves Taco. I've never met somebody that has met or interacted with Taco that doesn't love him. He's just such a good guy. But, the reason we connected was, when he was at UCF, I had saw the viral clips of him shooting his free throw where his hands went behind his head. And like everybody else, I said, what the heck is going on? And so when I was down there, I got in the gym with him late at night and I said, hey, Tak, let me give you a couple of little pointers on your free throw just to help you out. And his hands were so big, so we had to move his hands on the ball and this and that. And he made 3 in a row. And his teammates started going crazy. And I was like, what's the big deal? And they're like, yo, Tak's never made 3 in a row before. He gets too nervous after he shoots the first one. And so very similar to Dwight Howard thing, it was some mental and then some just him learning the game late. And so we got in the gym. He worked his butt off all off season and, started to develop in jump hooks, started to be able to set good screens and roll, started to be able to move well. And, he's still got such a big upside. But yeah, just getting him really good at the basics. Touch with his right hand, touch with his left hand, keeping the ball high after he gets an offensive rebound, setting screens and rolling and being able to catch bad passes, defend without fouling. Those are the big things that he's working on because those are the things that are going to keep him in the league.
And let's get to the important stuff now. Over the last few years, things haven't exactly been smooth sailing in Philadelphia, whether it be their former GM having burner accounts and trash talking on their best player, Joel's good mate, Jimmy Butler, coming and going so quickly, and then the logjam with Al Horford last season. Now that pieces seem to be falling into place around Joel, with obviously the shooting with Seth and Danny Green, and also the logjam sort of being resolved with Horford departing. What leaps can we expect to see Joel make? And have you spoken to him this offseason?
Well, not only have I spoken with him, I mean, I spent a month in Philly with him. So we talk all the time. I'm actually going up there next week. So Yeah, I mean, we've talked about, each and every year about how he can grow and develop, and obviously there's been some injuries that have not let him get in rhythm in some of the seasons. But, I think that everyone saw the healthy year they had 2 years ago where he, put up 27 and a half, I think 13 and 3 or something like that, which is something that Shaq only did once in his NBA career. His only MVP season is 2000 year. So, we know what he's capable of. Now the next step is being able to carry a team in the postseason. And, that's the only thing that really matters. That's the only thing that's going to define his career is, can he win championships? And that's something that we do think he can do. And so he's another relentless worker. He's a guy that studies more film than maybe anybody I work with. I mean, I don't know how many times that, I get the random 2-3 a.m. text message from him of send me my clips or send so-and-so's clips, or we've watched every single 𝗕𝗥𝗢𝗓𝗓𝗏 shot probably of his career, Shaq, Tim Duncan, and then all the current bigs, because he doesn't want anybody in the NBA to have something that he doesn't have in his bag. And so, the talent is there, the work ethic is there, the IQ is there. Now I hope that, he continues to get the pieces around him so that he can really carry the Sixers to what we think, he's capable of doing.
Yeah, me too.
Please make sure, though, Drew, that you don't spend all your time with Joel, because if the 76ers somehow managed to beat the Celtics in a playoff series, I wouldn't hear the end of it. I've been nice and respectful to Nathan, so I don't think he'd reciprocate that.
Every summer, Jayson walks in the gym, and the first thing he says to Joel is whatever the series was, 4-1 or 4-0 or whatever, their two playoff battles were. But,
I saw one of your videos where they were playing ones, and someone said, like, who's starting? And Jayson grabbed the ball and was like, we beat you in the playoffs, I'm starting.
Yeah, no, they have some good battles. They love each other. They respect each other. They both work so hard on their craft. And it's fun. It's fun for me. And it's also like, there's a ton of hold your breath moments when they're playing against each other, because I always laugh when I'm at games and say they're playing each other. Joel hits a fadeaway, and I'm like, there we go, Joe. And then the next possession, Jayson hits a sidestep three, and I'm like, yeah, keep going, Jay. And the fans look behind me like, yo, you're a front runner, bro. You're cheering for both teams. I'm like, no. I'm just cheering for these guys. So, but yeah, no, it's fun to see, 4 of the top 20 scorers in the league last year, Brad Beal, Jayson Tatum, Joel Embiid, and Zach LaVine, were all pure sweat guys. And I've had all those guys from, Jayson and Brad since they were 13, Joel and Zach before they ever started playing in the NBA. So, to have, 4 of the top 20 scorers, other guys like Myers Leonard and Kelly Oubre and RJ Barrett, and the list goes on. It's fun to work with some of these top guys and be a part of their development, and to see them grow each and every year is always exciting.
So do you have anything else, Jack, before we get into just the end?
I'm ready for a good bit of fun.
Okay. So we're just going to do some rapid fire questions, just whatever comes to your mind first. You can clarify, and if you feel like going on, that's good. But yeah, just some quick questions. You'll understand that some of them are a couple of debate settlers between me and Jack. So here we go. I'll go first. Who's the fastest learner out of your Pure Sweat clients?
I would say Joel Embiid.
Beautiful.
He also speaks. Yeah, I think a lot of the guys that I've worked with that speak multiple languages end up picking up stuff pretty quickly. But there's been times where I've taught Joel something on film, not even in the gym, like just showed him something on film, and the next night he used it in a game. So his ability to apply new things is up there with anybody. But Brad Beal and Jayson Tatum are very close 2-3. Brad and Jayson just have so much in their bag that they can just do everything already. Like they already have it in their bag, whereas Joel is more learning and acquiring new skills, which is why I threw his name out there.
Who's the funniest off the court or on the court as well?
I would say Taco, to be honest with you. He's a goofball, always having fun. He's like a little kid, like, he's a little kid that happens to be 7'6" or 7'7".
Who has the most, you might have already answered this, but who has the most competitive one-on-ones?
Ooh, that one's tough. I mean, I would probably say Brad Beal on that one. This was the first offseason that Brad Beal and I did not get in a actual fight because normally our trash talk gets so heavy. Now, remember, I've worked with Brad for 13 years now,
Yeah.
and when we started working out, I actually worked out with him because I was a player. You know, I won a state championship my senior year in high school, his freshman year in high school. So there was, you know, believe it or not, the first couple of years that we worked out, I was always way better than him. You know, obviously that's not the case anymore, but so our trash talking gets very heated. So this was the first summer that we ever did not get in a fight, and we're actually proud of that.
I'll take the next one, Jack. Did you think that Jayson's beard would actually connect?
Ooh, I give him trouble for that all the time. As you guys can see, my beard's a lot better than him, but every time I give him trouble about the beard, he'll tell me that his hairline's fresher. So we have a we have a win-lose situation where he wins one, I win one. So
if you could work with any past player, who would it be?
Past player, Michael Jordan. I mean,
Yeah.
there is no doubt about it. I got to spend a little time with him this offseason, but I mean, he's the GOAT, the greatest player of all time. He's one of the big reasons why I fell in love with basketball. When I was younger, I only wore Chicago Bulls gear and Michael Jordan jerseys, you know, everywhere. And like I said, I VHS recorded his games. If I got in trouble for anything, my punishment was I couldn't watch MJ on TV. I mean, that's how obsessive I was with MJ.
And is there a current player that you currently don't have in your clientele that you would love to work with?
I always answer Giannis just because I think, you know, he could be unbelievable if he ever developed a consistent jump shot and you know, really improved his footwork and added some moves. But obviously with Brad, Zach, Jason, Joel, Myers, all the rest of the guys in the Eastern Conference, they all like that I've stayed away from that.
This is another one that Nathan and I constantly debate over. Rap or country music?
I'm all rap. I'm all rap. The only country music that you're going to hear from me is if Nelly did a feature with '𝗕𝗥𝗢𝗓 or something like that. That's the only country music. I went to college at Belmont University, which is, you know, in Nashville. And on my visit, they were like, my recruiting visit, they were trying to impress me, and they took me downtown, and I was at this huge concert, and I was backstage doing this stuff, and I was like, I get on the phone, and I'm like, hey, Mom, you know, I was like, I love it. You know, she was asking me how the visit was going, and I said, I'm at a Kenny Chesnick concert, and they're like, Kenny Chesney, Drew, Kenny Chesney. I didn't even know his name, and they were like, oh man, we blew it. We didn't know that you didn't like country at all. So no, I'm all rap all the time.
You're a good man, Drew. If you're on the court working out all day, and you know, we've seen some of the unseen hours videos when you're there from 7 till nearly 1 in the morning, and I'm sure there's even more. What shoes are your go-to shoes?
To be honest with you, I have so many shoes, and it really depends on whatever color I'm wearing. I'm one of those weirdos that like I have to have my shoes match my shorts and my shirt, so I usually just go whatever matches. But I am always a wear one shoe type of guy, meaning like once I find the style that I like, I just rock and roll with it in every colorway possible. I'm not a guy that mixes up, you know, this player's signature shoe, this player's signature shoe. So that's kind of how I'm at right now. It's every season it's different, and I just get every single colorway of whatever shoe I like, and I rock them and just to match the outfit.
We're still waiting for the Nike Drew Hanlen ones to be announced.
I've been thinking about you know, getting a pure sweat shoe for the longest. I see too many players that wear Adidas, Nike, Jordan shoes that end up having injuries and stuff like that. And so I'm like, you know what? I don't want to go, you know, offshores, get some shoes that end up hurting somebody. So I've stayed away from it. But one of these days we'll get like a player edition, kind of a trainer edition shoe, and hopefully you guys will get those.
Is there a player that's a Patrick Ewing or a Kevin Garnett that's comfortably sweating the most in the gym?
Ooh, that's a close call between Joel and Taco.
Joel sweats so much.
So listen, I'm going to give a shout out to his manager, Jenny Sachs, who literally for the first summer I ever worked out Joel, we'd be on one side, we'd do like 12 reps, and he'd be sweating so much that there was a puddle of sweat. We'd have to run down to the other side of the court. She'd be, wiping it up. And then 12 reps later, we'd go to the other side and she'd walk down, and she was literally going back and forth, just kind of toweling it up. She's now like a movie star, so she doesn't do the wiping up of the sweat anymore. We have interns for that, but Joel and Taco are both up there.
That's the real unseen hours.
No doubt about it.
Who has put you on a plane the most?
Ooh, that's a hard question. I can't even answer that question, to be honest with you. I spend my entire life traveling to the guys, and I couldn't even answer that. All of them. I feel like I'm never home.
What's the situation about, like, how much notice? Like, do they have to book well and truly in advance, or is it sometimes it's what are you doing tomorrow evening?
I don't know if I've ever had a plane ticket more than a day before my flight. So no, I mean, it's like they have a bad game. They're in the locker room. They text me, yo, I need you here. And next thing you know, I've got my ticket information and I'm there. And so it's a nonstop. I'll think I'll have a week off and think I'm going to get to play golf or go spend time with my family, and plans change as soon as a guy has an off shooting night or feels like he needs to adjust to a scheme or coverage that he can't figure out on his own.
And we come to the most important and final question of the podcast, and answer this as you will. Who would you build around with a perfect coach and a perfect GM? Jayson and Jalen, or Joel and Ben?
I'm not going to answer that. There's no question. I would tell you that, I would choose Joel and Jayson to be the twosome out of those guys and rock and roll. No chance you're going to get me to get one of those guys mad. I'll tell you that much.
Well, what Nathan and I's answers would have been for that question.
I know what both your guys' answers, and I already know how you guys would have went. Obviously the Celtic fans would say, well, look, they beat them both in the playoffs. Then the Sixers would counter, yeah, but you guys had a better team around the supporting cast. Our guys have been all-stars more often than not, and all NBA guys, and it would have been a standstill argument.
You read us like a book.
That's it. I mean, I was going to start chirping in there, but you've basically said everything I was going to say. Drew, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an honor. And just quickly, I believe you're writing a book, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, no, I'm writing a book. I'm writing 2 books right now, but one of them that's coming out is going to be called Stop BSing Yourself. And it's basically the art of actually doing all the things that we as humans know we need to do, but we don't do. For the people that say, man, look in the mirror, I wish I lost a few pounds, what you need to do. There's a science behind actually following through with the things you need to do. For the people that, say they want to get better and improve their game, there's things that you need to do that you need to follow through and do. And so I really wanted to dig deep into the mental side of not just basketball, but just life, and help people follow through with the commitments that will take their lives to a whole new level.
Can't wait to get my hands on that one. Thank you so much once again for coming on the show.
Yeah, no doubt. I look forward to seeing you guys and meeting you guys when I get back out to Australia.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Bronx Cheer Basketball Show. It was really awesome to have Drew Hanlen on. JL, I know this is a pre-recorded message, but what did you think of Drew?
Oh, mate, that was the best interview I've ever done. I think all the questions I asked were fantastic. You dropped the ball a little bit, but that was expected.
Totally transparent here. This part is pre-recorded, but we hope you enjoyed the interview that will happen. I've really stuffed this up. We hope you enjoyed the interview with Drew. I'm sure it was a great time, and don't forget to press subscribe and follow whatever that button is on your podcast app, or press subscribe on YouTube. Check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We post lots of NBA updates and news and memes and stuff like that. It's always good to keep up with the Bronx Cheer basketball. JL, I'm going to say what I said last pod. Next pod, there may be a guest again. Don't hold me to it. No, hold me to it, but don't hold me to it.
So what you're trying to say is we're interviewing Drew Hanlen today.
We already interviewed him.
And his two biggest clients are Jayson Tatum and Joel Embiid. And you've somehow lined up a mystery guest for next show. I'm pretty keen for that one.
One of our guests next week is 7 foot. No.
From Cameroon.
Anyway, thanks for today, JL.
My pleasure as always.